According to officials with the TSA, if this partial government shutdown goes on much longer, some airports may be forced to close, which would be a huge inconvenience for business travelers, spring breakers, Cinnabon, Hudson News, Chili's to go, all of it. So far, the shutdown has forced 50,000 airport security officers to work without pay. Hundreds of them have already quit. 10% of all TSA agents called in sick yesterday. There are long lines across the country. These are lines hours and hours long at airports. They're saying that if you're flying to one of the popular spring break destinations, don't. Just stay home and watch TV. Watch a show about a trip instead. The situation has become so dire for those who aren't being paid. Airports are asking travelers now to bring TSA agents gift cards for food so they can eat for real. They're going to have to start selling the weed they confiscate pretty soon. But you know what? I will say something about our men and women in the TSA. You don't sign up to work at the TSA to make money. You do it because you love loudly reminding strangers to put their laptops in a bin. We're now on day 33 of this standoff. Democrats want people to be able to make their flights. Republicans want ICE agents to be able to wear masks when they shoot us, and no one will budge.
50,000 people are going to work every single day without knowing when their next paycheck is coming. These are not politicians. These aren't lobbyists. These are regular people with rent due and kids to feed. And the reason they're not getting paid is because two sides in Washington cannot agree on paperwork. Not policy, not ideology, paperwork. And while TSA agents are accepting gift cards from strangers just to eat lunch, the man responsible for this shutdown is at a resort in Florida that charges $500 a night just to walk through the front door. Nobody's talking about that part.
Trump is strong-arming the Senate right now to try to save himself from getting his ass handed to him in the midterm elections. The president's going all in on this plan he has to tip the scales in his favor with what he calls the Safeguard American Voter Eligibility Act, which he would like us to stop calling the SAVE Act. He wrote, for all of the fake news out there, it's called the Save America Act, not the SAVE Act. Nobody knows what the SAVE Act means. Okay, it's the SAVE Act. Got it. All you have to do is ask in a nice way. Seems like, though, he's going backwards with the slogans, right? It used to be Make America Great Again. Now it's Save America. Next week it'll be, for the love of God, help us, we're dying here. And Trump is now in full bully mode. He's forcing Republican senators to debate this bill he dreamed up to fight back against these completely fabricated claims of voter fraud. It's like if he made them build another wall at the Mexican border to keep the chupacabra out. That's how crucial this bill is. If it passes, you know, a lot of married women who took their husband's name will have to get a passport to vote, or just leave the country.
He's not trying to stop fraud. Fraud isn't the problem. The problem is he looked at the midterm map and didn't like what he saw. So instead of changing his policies, instead of actually doing something that makes people's life better, he's trying to change who gets to vote. That's it. That's the whole plan. And the most insulting part is that married women who legally changed their name are now going to need a passport to prove that they are who say they are. Women who did everything right, who followed every rule, who filled out every form, now need an international travel document to participate in their own democracy.
The Trump administration is now reported to be exploring the idea of paying $1 billion to stop a French energy company from building offshore wind farms in New York and North Carolina. $1 billion of our money to cancel projects that harness an endless resource, wind. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the kind of math that bankrupts casinos. If this wind farm, it makes no sense at all. If the wind farm in New York alone was finished, it would produce enough electricity to power 1 million homes and businesses with free renewable energy every year. So, of course, it has to be stopped. This might be the craziest thing about him. This grudge Trump has against what he calls windmills. They're actually wind turbines. They're not milling anything. But it goes back 20 years when he bought land along the coast of Scotland to build a golf course and then found out they had an offshore wind farm being built nearby, which he didn't want blocking his view. So he sued and sued and sued, which is what he does, and he lost, which is also what he does. He even had to pay the Scottish government's legal costs, and since then he's carried this grudge against these random inanimate objects he calls windmills. This is like declaring war against lighthouses. And why? What does he have against the wind? I mean, other than this, what's... Get a little off with it. Spray it down.
$1 billion to stop wind. He wants to spend $1 billion of taxpayer money because he lost a lawsuit in Scotland 20 years ago over a golf course view. This is now American foreign and energy policy. Personal grudge from 2 decades ago about scenery. Meanwhile, that wind farm would have powered 1 million homes with free energy every single year. Free. No oil, no gas, no price spikes, no wars in the Middle East, just wind. And he killed it because it annoyed him once. That's enough for him to do something bad. This is what happens when you give unlimited power to someone who has never once in his life had to worry about the electricity bill.
Senator Markwayne Mullin, the junior senator from Oklahoma, was on the hot seat today before the Senate committee. Markwayne is not the sharpest bulb in the forest. Things got off to a rough start this morning. He was asked to raise his right hand, couldn't figure out which one it was. But there's a fun backstory to this hearing today. Back in 2017, you may remember Senator Rand Paul was attacked by a neighbor and suffered some pretty serious physical injuries. And a couple of weeks ago, Markwayne Mullin said he understood why Rand Paul's neighbor beat him up. And now, 19 days later, all of a sudden, Trump nominates Mullin to be the head of the DHS. And guess who is the chairman of the committee in charge of his hearing? Oh, that's right. Tell it to the Rand.
You went on to brag that you'd already told me to my face that you completely understood and approved of the assault. Well, that's a lie. You have never had the courage to look me in the eye and tell me that the assault was justified. So today you'll have your chance. Today I'll give you that chance to clear the record. Tell it to my face. If that's what you believe, tell it to me today. Tell the world why you believe I deserve to be assaulted from behind, have 6 ribs broken and a damaged lung. Tell me to my face why you think I deserved it.
Either the Bachelorette is becoming more like Congress or Congress is becoming more like the Bachelorette. I don't know, but... And, of course, Markwayne didn't have a good answer for the question other than some mutters and grunts. And then Senator Paul, who was making the point that this guy's a loose cannon, maybe a loose cannon isn't the best choice to be in charge of securing the homeland. He showed a montage of Markwayne Mullin making threats, challenging a guy to fight, and then bragging about it repeatedly on TV.
In the days after the fight, you did many interviews in which you justified the violence as historically justified by precedents, such as caning and dueling.
What I was simply pointing out is some of the rules that still apply to this body. For instance, dueling with 2 consenting adults is still there. I was pointing out what is still
illegal for 170 years.
Well, hold up. I just saw Hamilton last summer. That weren't real? And, of course, no Trump confirmation hearing would be complete without a healthy dose of election denial.
Who won the 2020 election?
Ma'am, we know that President Joe Biden was sworn into office. He was the president for the last 4 years.
But I do believe won the election?
My job as Department of Homeland Security Secretary will be to make sure that we assure that the elections are fair and people can trust them.
I'm sorry, the correct answer was Joseph Biden. We would have also accepted Joe. For short, you got that wrong. Go back to your seat. If confirmed, Markwayne Mullin, who is part Native American, would become the first Native American to hold the job running Homeland Security, which is great. But, I mean, nothing against Native Americans, but as far as controlling illegal immigration goes, they did let us in, okay? After sitting through this hearing, I found it hard to believe that Senator Mullin knows much about Homeland Security, but we did some digging, and we found something that he does know a lot about. You know, before he was in Congress, he was a plumber.
How do you clean your garbage disposal? Well, let me show you. Take you a wooden spoon and a pitcher of ice, pour the ice into the garbage disposal, and then use the spoon to help push the ice into the garbage disposal. Turn the water on slightly, and this will clean your garbage disposal very, very nicely.
All right, thank you, Mark. Just take you a wooden spoon and a pitcher of ice, and you gotta... You see, he has experience with ice. He knows what to do. That man has more business plunging the Whataburgers out of Trump's golden toilet than running Homeland Security for this country. It's a good tip, though. I will just say that.
This man could not identify his right hand at his own confirmation hearing. And Trump wants him running the Department of Homeland Security. Yeah, it's really happening. The entire department responsible for protecting 330 million Americans from terrorism, natural disasters, and cyber attack. And his most impressive credential on the resume is the YouTube video about garbage disposals. But here's the part that nobody's saying out loud. Trump didn't pick him because he's qualified or something. Trump picked him because he's controllable. A man who can't tell his left from his right in a Senate hearing is never going to push back on anything. And that's exactly what Trump needs running Homeland Security right now.
Lawmakers had the chance to interrogate CIA Director John Ratcliffe and the Director of National Intelligence, Tulsi Gabbard, about the still unknown reasons for our war on Iran, the raid on the Fulton County election office, and some absolutely crazy fundraising emails their boss has been sending out.
I just want to point out something that was released about 6 days ago. This is a fundraising email from the president. It says, as a national security briefing member, you'll receive my private national security briefings. Do you think the public should be able to, supporters of the president should be able to pay and receive his private national security briefings?
I don't know. It depends. Do they pay in cash? How much are they paying? I don't know. Basically, the question is, do you think our national security should be structured like an OnlyFans?
I don't know what that document is, but regardless of what it says, it didn't happen.
Oh, no, this is new.
But what I'm telling you is that the Hatch Act would prevent me from, in an apolitical role, from engaging in that. I'm not aware that anything like that happened.
Yeah, this says unfiltered updates. So, Director Gabbard, do you have any comment on whether unfiltered updates of private national security briefings should be made to individuals that donate to the president?
I'm not familiar with that document.
She said the same thing about the Constitution, by the way. I often wonder, I really do, I wonder, how could anyone vote for this man who appointed all these dopes? I mean, I get being a Republican, you have different views politically, I understand all that, but of all the people whose opinions match up with yours, how the hell did we wind up with him? And the good news is, it seems I am not the only one wondering that lately.
If you could say something to President Trump and he was going to hear you right now, what would it be?
You're a worthless pile of
And you voted for him how many times?
3 times. That was my bad. Apparently, I'm an idiot.
All right, well, admitting it is the first step. It may have taken you 3 elections to get here, but we're happy to welcome you into the Trump's a worthless pile of bleep club.
Trump was sending fundraising emails promising donors private national security briefings in exchange for money. Let me read that again. President of the United States was selling access to classified national security information through a campaign email list, and his intelligence director sat in front of Congress and said she wasn't familiar with the document. The document that was sent to millions of people on the internet that anyone Google, and somehow that answer was accepted. And the man who voted for him 3 times, and the woman who voted for him 3 times, and called him a worthless pile of something on camera, is still ahead of most people, because at least she figured out. Most of them never will.